Hey friends, welcome back. Since I've been making a lot of vlogs and I'm all about spicing up my content, I thought I'd go back to basics and talk about 7 mindset habits that changed my life. Waking up early, drinking water, having routine, working out, meditating. I feel like most people talk about that. What people don't talk about enough, or what I don't see enough of online, it's more so mental habits, because I feel like if you can get this right, if you can take yourself out of living in your own head and actually be able to engage with the world around us, I think that is probably one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves. And for every point, I'll be giving you guys a couple of resources, be it books, articles, podcasts, Kdramas, online learning courses that helps, you can do further research/learning with all of this. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. If you guys have been here for a while, you know they're my favorite online learning community. The courses that I'll be referencing will be from Skillshare, and they are so amazing. They're so amazing. And if after watching this video, you're like, I want to give Skillshare a try, you can sign up with the link in the description box below to get a 2-month free trial. And without further ado, let's get started. One of the mistakes many of us make is that we feel sorry for ourselves or for others, thinking that life should be fair or that someday it will be. It's not, and it won't. When we make this mistake, we tend to spend a lot of time wallowing and/or complaining about what's wrong with life. It's not fair, we complain, not realizing that perhaps it was never intended to be. Yeah. I think in life, the decks are stacked against every single one of us. I don't think anyone has it better or easier than the other person. We are all suffering. We all go through things that are seemingly unfair. And I'm sure every single one of us by this point have at least gone through one very, very, very painful and seemingly unjust and completely unfair event in their lives. For me, it was losing my older brother when he was 19 about 10 years ago. When that happened, when anything like this happens, when you experience a sudden loss, when you experience anything that's a shock to your system, there's 2 ways to deal with it. We can go down the path of least resistance, complain, feel like the world is an unfair place, and if there's a God, why would God do something like this? And that's like the path of least resistance, right? I really wanted to take full responsibility of myself and my life and go down that path with resistance, because I knew that this path, although there will be a lot of struggle, although there will be a lot of suffering and pain, that ultimately it will lead me closer to where I know I wanted to be, because the alternative would just be I would be doing absolutely nothing. Thinking life isn't fair, comparing our lives to those around us, having this like deep resentment or anger that our life should be so much better than where it currently is. What I've learned over time was that no matter how much I did any of those things that I just said, it's not gonna get me closer to where I wanna be. So what can I do instead? Taking responsibility, to me, it really just means being really honest with yourself and putting in the work to become the person you know you're capable of being. And this takes time, and that's okay. It's a part of the process and it's part of the journey. But I think the first step is that heart, that desire of wanting to take responsibility of your life. And when that heart and when that desire comes out, the universe is watching, and the universe will start helping you, guide you to where you need to go. So a couple of questions you can ask yourself is, how can I take maximal responsibility for my own life? And how can I be a better person? So these really are answers that you can only answer for yourself. I made a video, I'll link up here, of how to write your life together with 3 writing prompts. A really good Korean drama that just perfectly shows how you take responsibility of your life is Mr. Sunshine. Favorite drama series of all time. All the characters had such harsh, and their childhoods are all so sad, filled with so much suffering, but they all came together for this greater good, and they all took responsibility of their own lives in their own unique ways. And I would highly recommend that. It gave me a lot of inspiration. There's a Skillshare course called Drawing as self-discovery, 5 ways to start. The instructor used drawing and doodling as a way to heal herself after a breakup, followed by a sudden passing of her father, followed by discovering she may have some sort of cancerous cells in her body. And she used this drawing as self-discovery and as a way of self-care. So this is a very awesome course, and it's all gonna be linked down below. The Buddha's main thesis was that in a world where everything is constantly changing, we suffer because we cling to things that won't last. This, to me, basically just means letting go of all the things that are not essential in your life. So I've talked in my previous videos about how I was very wild when I was younger, so I did a lot of drinking, I did a lot of socializing. My priority at that time was, part of it was trying to figure out who I was and where I was going with my life. But the other part of it, the bigger part, was I wanted to distract myself. So I distracted myself with drinking, I distracted myself with going out, I distracted myself with being in a relationship, and that led me down a very dark, sad path. Having come out of that, I was like, okay, what are my priorities? My priorities are my spirituality, my priorities are my family, and my priorities are work. So these 3 things became my priority, and I essentially trimmed out everything else. What you guys see in my vlogs is essentially what my life is. I don't really go out. Now I'm trying to incorporate more socializing and networking and connecting with people in real life into my life, but for the past, I would say 2-3 years, I did minimal of that. I mean, what they say is true. If you want to be successful at something, you're gonna have to make some sacrifices, and I made sacrifices in that, like the social aspect of my life. So to talk about attachments really quickly, we attach ourselves to things because it feeds a part of us. It feeds a part of our ego. When we talk about letting go of these attachments, the reason why it's so painful is because we're essentially letting go of a part of us, or letting go of a perception of us that we've created in our own heads. And to be able to do that, it takes a lot of, like, inner work is hard, it's painful, right? So that whole process is not easy, but to be able to get onto the other side and to be able to live more peacefully and be far more grounded, this is what I mean by letting go. And when you let go of things, it's not that you don't care about those things anymore. It's not like you can't have friends and be in relationships anymore. It just means you're very, very mindful and intentional with everything that you do, and you're not doing things because these attachments are feeding a part of you that should not be fed. Here are 2 quotes that I really like. The first one is from Marcus Aurelius. If you guys have not heard of Meditations, it's basically the Roman emperor's diary. It was never meant to come out to the public, but it is, and it is amazing. So one quote, the more we value things outside our control, the less control we have. And another one is from Naval Ravikant. A rational person can find peace by cultivating indifference to things outside of their control. I love his podcast with Tim Ferriss. There's 2 of them. I'll link both of them down below. People tend to become what the most important people in their lives think they will become. So I saw this quote on Tumblr way back when Tumblr was still poppin', and I love this concept. 4 quarters over 100 pennies, because it all adds up to $1, right? Growing up, I really wanted to collect all the pennies. I wanted everyone to know me, I wanted to know everyone, and I was chasing this thing called popularity, and I very quickly realized it doesn't lead anywhere. It's completely empty. So with that, over time, I slowly started to realize, instead of chasing these superficial relationships, I would rather really deeply get to know 4 people. As we grow as individuals, it's inevitable that we outgrow many things. I really love this quote from Felicia's Instagram bio. It's something like, outgrowing many things to grow from within. And I think when you grow from within, when you elevate yourself, when you grow, when you change, you create a distance between who you are versus who you were, and that distance is growth, right? And you're now here, and if most of the people in your life are still here, it can create some you know? I think this is one of the very hard and sad truths of growing up and just of living and of existing. But I feel like it's very important to constantly take stock and constantly look at who we are surrounding ourselves with, because it really does make a huge difference on your life. All the saying of you are who you surround yourself with, you are the product of your 5 closest friends, I think that's all true. One Korean drama that I watched recently that isn't like groundbreaking. It's not like, oh my god, it was so good, but it's really cute. It's called My First Love, and the male lead, his relationship with his best girlfriend, that relationship, I thought it was very sweet. It's very sweet, the way that he unconditionally takes care of her and unconditionally loves her, and how they're just so comfortable around each other. I think it's a really cute friendship. Number 4. I remind myself every morning, nothing I say this day will teach me anything. So if I'm going to learn, I must do by listening. So there's 5 levels of listening. The first one is straight up ignoring. You just ignore. Like someone's talking to you, ignore. I'm just gonna be on my phone. The second thing is pretend listening, which is where you're like, The third one is selective listening, which is listening to be right. You're just listening to bits and pieces of what the other person is saying so that you can butt your own opinions in. I do this sometimes. I think we all do. The fourth one is attentive listening, which is you're listening to learn. So the reason why this isn't empathetic listening is because you're still listening from your own personal frame of reference. What you're ultimately seeking is still a self thing, like I want to learn from this person. It's not a let me put myself in another person's shoes. To truly listen means to transcend your autobiography, to get out of your own frame of reference, out of your own value system, out of your own history and judging tendencies, and to get deeply into the frame of reference or viewpoint of another person. This is called emphatic listening. It is a very, very rare skill, but it is more than a skill, much more. As with all things, practice makes perfect. So be careful of what you're practicing. Be careful what type of listening you're listening to. And I really like this quote. We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak. I love it. So to be a good listener, as with many, many things in life, you just need to put in the time and the effort, and you need to want to listen to other people. If you just want to think about yourself and want to live in your own head, then no matter what I or anyone tell you, you're just gonna keep doing that. With all of these things, it needs to be like this deep from your core that I want to be better and I want to change. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna read you guys a pretty lengthy quote from The Crossroads of Should and Must by Elle. This helped me so much when I was deciding in college what I should do and what path I should take, which ultimately led me to right here with you beautiful humans. There are 2 paths in life, should and must. We arrive at this crossroads over and over again, and each time we get to choose. Should is how others want us to show up in the world, how we're supposed to think, what we ought to say, what we should or shouldn't do. It's the vast array of expectations that others layer upon us. When we choose should, the journey is smooth, the risk is small. This isn't what you want. Must is different. There aren't options and we don't have a choice. Must is who we are, what we believe, and what we do when we're alone with our truest, most authentic self. It's our instincts, our cravings and longings, the things and places and ideas we burn for, the intuition that swells up from somewhere deep inside of us. Must is what happens when we stop conforming to other people's ideals and start connecting to our own. Because when we choose must, we are no longer looking for inspiration out there. Instead, we are listening to our calling from within. This is so beautiful. This is really so beautiful. Risks can be scary. Yes, it can be very scary, but I think when we're older and we look back on our lives and on our youth, we're gonna regret more the things that we didn't do rather than the things that we did do. A really important element of this taking the risk thing is you really need to know yourself. You need to be really, really self-aware of who you are and what you're capable of and your strengths and your weaknesses, because I can sit here and tell you to, take that risk, but I know nothing about you and I know nothing about your life. Elle actually has a Skillshare course on Choose Must, 10 hands-on exercises to find and pursue your passion. this is something, again, that I wish I had when I was going through everything in my life. But I think now, even taking the course now, it's still massively helpful because it's helping me hone in on where I want to go and where I want to be. So that's also going to be linked down below. Inner peace is accomplished by understanding and accepting the inevitable contradictions of life. The pain and pleasure, success and failure, joy and sorrow, births and deaths. Problems can teach us to be gracious, humble, and patient. Life happens in oscillations. We as humans oscillate between so many different seasons, and we're constantly changing, we're constantly growing. So it's normal that some of us, at least, have tendencies to be at one extreme or the other. And it's a Buddhist principle to walk the middle path between the two extremes. With finding the middle path, resources, yourself. Both of the Skillshare courses I referenced can be very helpful because to find the middle path, you need to first understand yourself and like what the extremes are. And I'm not just saying this because they sponsor me. I really actually think it'll be a very helpful course to take. All right, moving on to the last one. When you take time often to reflect on the miracle of life, the miracle that you're even able to read this book, the gift of sight, of love, and all the rest, it can help to remind you that many of the things you think as big stuff are really just small. This is something that many of the successful CEOs of the world do. Steve Jobs would ask himself every morning, if today is my last day, what would I do? Another way to reframe this question for nighttime is, if today is my last night, who would I call? Who would I reach out to? Who would I tell that I love and appreciate? And I think a natural byproduct of thinking about death or how finite our lives actually are is you start thinking about, is there something after death, and was there something before this lifetime? Is there reincarnation? Is there an afterlife? Is there heaven? Is there all of these things? One of the most important things that I've learned is that because I do believe in some greater forces up there looking after us and taking care of everything, the saying that 善有善报,恶有恶报, like if you do good things, you'll be rewarded with good. If you do bad things, you will be faced with bad things. It makes me so much more cautious and aware and mindful, intentional with the things that I do, especially if I know that someone's watching all the time. Not in a creepy way, right? But from like a morality, being a good person and doing the right thing standpoint. And I'm also watching Hotel de Luna right now, which is a Korean drama. It's so good, guys. It's so good. They're wrapping up this weekend. It's a hotel for ghosts to stay at before they move on to the afterlife, and it's so funny. It's kind of dark and it's so truthful. Like, I've never watched something that aligns so much with the way that I saw the world, and I think it's a lot of Buddhist principles. I would definitely recommend watching that, even just as pure entertainment. And I think as humans, it's important to have some sense of right and wrong and good and evil. I think it's actually very important. So some resources. I definitely recommend Hotel de Luna. Angel's Last Mission is also really good. The actress, oh my god, her acting is so great. So great. There's a lot of depth in those dialogues. And if you're more of a book person, I would recommend The Last Lecture, Two Days with Marie, and When Breath Becomes Air. These three are all written by authors who have a finite time left. This is basically like their memoir. I don't know if they're called memoirs, but yeah, it's a reflection of like the last couple of months that they have left to live. So this is really great. Thank you so much again to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. And if you guys have any questions, comments, thoughts, suggestions, leave it down below. I'll see you guys in the next video.